I'm going to show you how you can use P6-Loader to create a project in P6 with all of its components that you might need for your new project. So in my P6-Loader workbook, I'm first of all going to start building out my WBS. I've got my top level WBSs as well as some children to each one of those WBSs for my WBS structure. I also need to create several project codes for this project where I am creating them in this sheet. And then in my activity code sheet here, I'm populating that dictionary for each one of those activity codes. On the activity itself, I am creating my activities, saying which WBS I would like them to reside in. And I'm also using the functionality of Excel to help me build out my name for some of my activities here. So I'm concatenating G, H, and I to make that activity name. Now, I've added a column in here for my title. P6-Loader doesn't recognize the column header called title, so when it loads, it's simply going to skip over that data and not load anything on that particular column. Now, P6-Loader also knows to use the value returned by the formula used in P6, so you don't have to copy and paste actual values once you use your formula. I'm going to add some activity expenses as well as assign some activity cost account IDs to them. Going to add some steps into several activities. And then I am in the need for a rotating calendar, 10 on and 4 off, for my resources for this project. So I'm going to set up my calendar on this sheet. I'm going to define my work time on my calendar weekday sheet. So Sunday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 5:30. And then on my exceptions, I am going to use a formula again to calculate my exceptions to my work days. So I've started out with my first work day, and then I'm going to increment it each day for my first 4 days off, and then jump to my next 4 days off, and so on and so forth to define those. This allows you to more accurately set up those days off or those exceptions to your calendar on kind of a complicated calendar like this without having to click each box in the calendar in P6 and then setting an exception for a work day. More accurate because you're actually calculating those days off rather than having to count and perhaps maybe counting wrong in the calendar when you set it up. Then I'm going to create my resources I need for this particular project, and then I am going to assign that calendar as well. So the calendar will be created by P6-Loader prior to trying to assign it. P6-Loader knows what order in which to create the data so that it's successful when you go to assign it on, let's say in this, for instance, on a resource, the calendar on the resource. Then I'm going to assign my resources to each one of my activities, and I'm going to start doing some planning on each one of those resources. I'm also going to set some roles as well on those resources. And then finally, I'm going to set up the logic for my project using my project ID and my activity ID to set up the successors to each one of my activities. Now, this is also a good feature to use if you have any cross-project relationships that you need to maintain. You simply put the activity ID and the project ID of the other project in, and it will set that up as well. So you can also set your type of relationship you'd like and your lag. So once you have that all set up and ready to go, you simply go to the upload area of P6-Loader. You browse to the file that you would like to use, select it, and P6-Loader will upload it. It'll go out, create that data, and then tell you when it has completed successfully. Once it's completed successfully, we can go into P6 and we can refresh our data. And now I can see that this project has created the successors, the resources, the planning on this particular project. And if I go into my resources, I can see where my resources were created for my project, as well as that rotating calendar that is going to be used on the project itself. So very simple to set up a project using P6-Loader.